Jamal, Niaz here with Frank Smith. Busy fight week coming up, and it's a massive week of boxing across the country, isn't it? You've got two other events that you're competing against from Matchroom's perspective. What did you make of the face-off between Lara and Lee Wood? Lee's got everything to prove heading into this one, hasn't he?
Yeah, look, as you say, great week for boxing. Some massive fights on this week all around the country. You know, here you got Bournemouth and you've got Belfast as well with Jamie Conlon challenging for the world title. You know, good luck to everyone in all those shows. Here, look, Lee Wood's jumping straight back in there. He knows the challenge that's there. He knows what Mauricio Lara brings. Mauricio Lara on the pads hitting as hard as ever, and you know it was quite an intense face-off between the two of them. I thought after the Castro Foley one, where they started prodding each other's bellies, I thought they were going to go for me next. But you know, it's a big fight. It's a big fight, and we saw what happened in the first one. You know, Lee Wood ahead on the scorecards, winning the fight, but gets caught by that shot, and that's the strength Mauricio Lara has. And I think we're going to be in for a great fight on Saturday night.
Obviously, like you mentioned, Conlon Lopez could potentially be there for the winner of Saturday's fight between Lee Wood and Lara, but you've also got Josh Warrington there in the background. Obviously, Lara spat at Warrington last time, showing that rivalry is not going to die down until the trilogy fight happens. And you've got the Lee Wood-Warrington stadium fight. That's there for the taking for you guys if everything goes to plan. So how do you see it going dependent on the winner? What sort of matchup sticks out for you for the most? It's say if Lara wins and then if Wood wins as well.
Look, I think a Warrington fight is natural for both of them. You know, Lee Wood, Warrington, a massive all British fight, and you know with Warrington against Lara, you've got two guys there that've got a lot of history between the two of them. I've had two fights already. The second one didn't end maybe the way we wanted to see it end. Obviously, you know, with the ref calling it off, but then they had the altercation at the Wood Lara 1 fight. But look, you know, both of them aren't looking past Saturday night. They've got a tough test ahead of them from both sides. Both Lee Wood and Mauricio Lara, so no looking beyond that. But Warrington is a natural fight there, as you say. If Michael Conlon can get the win, that's another great fight to be made. You know, Michael Conlon against Lee Wood's a great fight to see again. We all, you know, without titles. I think the exciting thing is there's so many big fights that can be made in that division, and you know you have to respect all these fighters going in with the toughest tests, and that's what the sport's all about. And where the sport can improve is fighters taking real tests. And belts are important. Fighters want to win belts, but it's about delivering the biggest shows and the biggest nights. And you know, with all that round robin of 4 or 5 guys, there's some great nights to be made.
It's always good to have no shortage of competition in a specific weight class, and they're all really exciting guys. Just from the perspective we talked about, where you're competing against those two other shows, the Boxer show and the Conlon Lopez fight, in terms of time management, making sure that fans can, if they want to watch the Boxer show and then watch the Matchroom card, how much have you been thinking about that, and do you guys relish the competition as well? Because you know you always want to go there and show that you're top dog, so you've got an opportunity to do it on Saturday night as well.
Yeah, look, competition's good. Competition's always been good, but we're our own biggest critic, so you know we'll always judge ourselves more than anyone else will. It's a shame that there's 3 shows clashing. It's the reality, though, of the sport with so many big televised promoters now, that there's going to be 60, 70 shows a year. There are going to be clashes. You know, for us, our focus is our show. I know Eddie spoke to George Warren. I think they're going at 9 p.m. with the Conlon main event. We're about 10 p.m. I don't know what they're planning with a Coley against Billum Smith. So I'm not too sure what they're doing on timings. But, yeah, our focus, look, I think we've got, honestly, not being biased, I think we've got the best fight and the most entertaining fight, and I think people are, you know, I've seen quite a few polls on the internet about what people are watching. Good news is with DAZN you can watch it on about 20 different platforms, so it's available everywhere.
It's going to be a good night for fight fans on Saturday night, and it was an amazing night last Saturday in Dublin. Chantelle Cameron absolutely delivered an incredible night, and there's talks of the rematch at lightweight. Could that potentially happen in Dublin in September? I know I've seen like a provisional sort of date looked at for September. That was the sort of the plan if Taylor won. Chantelle now wants Katie to come down to her weight class and try and take Katie's belts off her. Has Katie said that she's interested in that? And like I mentioned, that September date, could that happen as well?
No, I think, as you say, Saturday night in Dublin was like something we've never seen. We all knew it was going to be massive, but I think what it delivered, you know, the atmosphere, the event that was created was something special. and respect to Katie and Chantelle for going in there, you know. And it also it's probably a bit tough for Chantelle because it was so built around Katie's homecoming, but you had two of the best there. You had the two best in the sport coming together, and respect to them both because they put on a great fight. I think it's early days in terms of the talks around the rematch. I think Katie's going to speak to her team, obviously, and decide the best route back. You know, but knowing Katie Taylor, I think she'll want to go straight back in there. I think October time, probably a bit more likely, October, November. I do think Dublin is the likely location for it. But let's see, you know, let's see how things play out before we do too much talking.
Do you think it would be easy to convince Chantelle to come back to fight in Dublin? Because it's Katie's backyard, but she won the first fight, so does she be seen as the A side now? How's that one going to work?
Yeah, look, I'm sure in terms of walking, etc. But at the same time, it has to. All these things have to make commercial sense as well to deliver these fights. And Dublin is probably the location that makes the most commercial sense for that fight as well, in reality. And also, the event that was created, I think everyone will want to do that again. You know, it's not something. Like I say, I said the other day, I've done 353 shows with Matchroom Boxing since I started in 2008. That atmosphere was like nothing I've ever seen. The ring walk just for Gary Cully's fight alone, and I know the result didn't go his way, but the ring walk showed the love for boxing. And the great thing about Dublin is an island. They just love boxing. And as much as they wanted Katie Taylor to win, they were respectful as well. You know, they were respectful all week to Chantelle Cameron. So, you know, it's a special place to do boxing, and we want to do a load more there.
Could that be another collaboration with Conor McGregor in Proper 12? Because that created some iconic moments throughout fight week and on fight night as well. What was it like having him around the Matchroom event as well? Because he's an incredible personality, isn't he?
Yeah, look, he's an incredible personality, as you say. He's a big character. He was slamming on the ring canvas throughout the fight. And a big thank you for his support as well, not just from the sponsorship side, but also his support for the sport, because he has such a huge platform. And that helps all of these fighters. That's going to only help the sport of boxing deliver people more opportunities, having someone like him with so many eyeballs on the sport. And you know, like I say, a big thank you to him, because he was great in the build up to it and delivered. And you know, like I said, he was a great part of delivering a great night.
Is there any update on Anthony Joshua as well? Because everyone wants to see the Wilder fight. There's rumours about it being held in Saudi later in the year. I know Eddie went over for a meeting. Do you have any update on that? And is that the number one fight that you want for Anthony Joshua at this point?
Yeah, look, the Wilder fight towards the end of the year in December is a fight we want to make happen. It's a massive fight, and discussions are ongoing with Saudi. You know, AJ's he's just returned back to camp with Derek James, so he's back out there. He's looking for a summer fight. So hopefully we'll have news out on that soon. Working hard in the background to get that over the line.
What do you make of Tyson Fury potentially going up against Dempsey McKean in Australia? It's an opponent that a lot of casual fans won't have heard of, and given that there's been so many discussions about the Usyk fight, for him to then go and fight a guy like this in Australia that, as I said, not many people have heard of, from your perspective, what do you make of that?
Let's see, you know, like I take everything Tyson says with a pinch of salt. Let's see what happens. He was supposed to fight April, July. You know, now he's fighting in Australia. I don't know. He's obviously out there for the Joseph Parker fight. Look, it would be a great opportunity for our man Dempsey McKean. You know, he deserves a big opportunity. If it's not that, we're looking at the Hrgovic fight for him. But, you know, I kind of just sort of sit back and say, right, let's see what happens. There's so much talking, especially with the heavyweight division, and maybe that's part of the reason why in the past the big fights haven't happened. So it's kind of like, let's focus on all delivering the best opportunities for the people we represent, and then go from there.
Another heavyweight that could be coming into the mix is Francis Ngannou. He signed with PFL, but they've given him the option to have a couple of boxing fights as well, and he says he wants to fight first before he competes with PFL in 2024. Do you think realistically, I know AJ's given his opinion, but do you think realistically Matchroom could work with Francis in some capacity? Because Eddie's quite a big fan of him as well, isn't he?
Yeah, possibly. You know, Francis Ngannou is a great talent. I saw, like you say, the PFL announcement. It depends really what he wants to do as well. Does he just want to go in for a massive one-off fight against one of these guys? Look, it's a big test going in against a boxer. You know, you're never like coming across from UFC. But let's see what happens. But big opportunity there. I think the focus, obviously, for all of these top guys, Usyk Fury should be a focus, and Joshua Wilder should be a focus. They're the fights people want to see, and then maybe the Ngannou fight can happen in the future.
One thing as well from Saturday's, obviously, from the Cully fight, I saw a lot of people online saying, even I think McGregor was quoted saying, "Why didn't you put him in with a can?" And this is the thing with boxing, is when people try and say that people's records are padded. That wasn't one of those fights where it was trying to pad someone's record. You was putting him against a legit dangerous guy, and sometimes it doesn't go the way of the promoters. What do you make of it online? Because sometimes, from a promoter's perspective, you can't really win when you do what the fans want to see. What do you make of it?
Look, the truth is you can't win. As people like saying about Katie as well, we want to see the best fight the best. We want to see real fights. We don't want to see knockover jobs. The only thing that's going to grow this sport is the best fighting the best. That means people are going to lose. It's the reality of it. But have respect for the fact that they want to take challenges, because so many people don't want to take challenges. So many people want to pad their record. Don't get me wrong, building a fighter up from early stages of their career, yes, they need to be built the right way. 6, 7, 8 fights in. But once they get to a certain point, you need to deliver them proper fights. That's the only thing that's going to build their ability for the long term to fight in these world title fights, because you can't just go from this level to up here. There has to be, tests throughout. Look, Gary Cully should have won that fight. He was overwhelming favourite with the bookmakers. He should have won that fight. He didn't. He'll come back. It's a blip in the story. Doesn't mean it's the end of Gary Cully in any way. How many fighters have we seen that have taken losses but then come back stronger? And I think you have to, like I say, fans you can't win with. It's more promoter-led. You have to respect the fact of people taking real fights. And when they take real fights, there's a chance they're going to lose. But it's what's going to grow the sport. People want to see high-quality entertainment. They don't want to see 10 fights all with walkovers. It's not going to grow the sport. It's what UFC have done so well. And it's what we'll continue to do. Again, doesn't mean we're just going to throw fighters in and get them beat, but at the same time, it's the only way we're going to grow and keep building and developing the sport.
You mentioned the UFC there, and when that high-level MMA fighter loses a fight, they're not scrutinised at all, because people understand and respect the credibility of both fighters, and we don't see that enough in boxing. When someone loses, the first thing you see on Twitter is, "Oh, they're done, never watching them again," or "They're not going to achieve world level." Is that something, again, like you said, that's something that you want to change, and that's something that the fans need to be on board with as well, that UFC model, like you mentioned?
Yeah, 100%, but there's so many good examples of people who have suffered losses throughout their career. And, some of these are characters. Derek Chisora, what's he had, 11 losses? He just fought Tyson Fury in front of 50,000 people at Tottenham Hotspurs. Lee Wood's a good example. He lost in the early part of his career in fights where people would have said, no, he's no chance of getting to that one. Look at what he's doing now. Look at the tickets he's selling. Look at the events he's bringing. Josh Warrington's like all of these fighters have lost fights. It doesn't mean it's the end of you. It just means that you took a real test. So I do think there's a lot to be learnt from the UFC in that sense. And I think people will start over time, start understanding, actually, that's for the benefit of the sport. We aren't sending fighters in to get beat, but we want real tests. That's what everyone tunes in for. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a business, and the fighters wouldn't be getting paid, because there would be no interest in the sport. And there has been a period of warm-up fights. I don't want to take a challenge. That's what's got to change, and it is changing. And I think it's for the good of the sport. And we will ride out the look at Matchroom getting their fighters beat. If you go in there, you deliver a performance, and you give it your all, there will be so many more opportunities for you. So, like I say, a lot can be learnt from the UFC in that sense.
Brilliant. I'm looking forward to Saturday night. It promises to be an incredible event, incredible main event, and really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Thank you, mate.